welcome to the show. I'm very pleased to have my guest, Jane Spicer from Daphne's Headcovers, who is the owner and CEO. For everyone who may or may not know, Daphne's Headcovers, some of the best animal and featured headcovers in the golf industry. Very honored to have you here. Welcome to the show, Jane.
Well, thank you very much for having me, John. It's good to see you again, and this is a great way to wind down a day.
Oh, absolutely. And now you're coming to us from Phoenix, Arizona. So we had a little bit of a difference. Now last time, correct me if I'm wrong, but last time I was in Phoenix, I'm not sure if Arizona necessarily goes by the time difference.
No, you're right, and we confuse everybody because we have so much sunshine, we don't abide by daylight savings time. So when it starts and when it ends, we can expect all of our East Coast meetings and Midwest to be an hour early or an hour late because we confuse the whole country.
Right, right. I mean, you got to love Arizona. It's like you go down to I mean, I remember driving into Arizona, and I'll be in Flagstaff up in the mountains, and it's snowing. And then you drive down into the valley, into Phoenix, and it's like 90 degrees and sunny and perfect.
It's so diverse. I've one day I did this something very similar. I skied in Flagstaff up until lunchtime. Then I drove down to Phoenix, went to Lake Pleasant, and sailed all afternoon in t-shirt and shorts. And it's only 2.5 hours apart.
Right? Isn't that crazy? I'm just
Yeah.
like, yeah, I mean, just the difference of, I mean, I don't know if everybody, any of our listeners and viewers who have never, got the chance to get down to Scottsdale and to Phoenix, that elevation difference is dramatic. And there's just something about Phoenix and being in, the desert golf experience. It's different. I mean, it's just, I, I, I can't even, I lost track of how many great courses are in the Phoenix and Scottsdale area. I mean, everybody knows TPC,
Yes.
Scottsdale, and the Waste Management Oven. That's the one that everybody knows. But there's a ton of fantastic courses. I believe they're just hosting the NCAA Women's and Men's Championship these past 2 weeks at
Yeah,
Greyhawk, I
just
believe.
down the street from me. Yeah, at Greyhawk. And so we've had just some of the best young men and women here playing. And it's a beautiful two courses. Um, yeah, so we're surrounded by good golf courses, and there's so much variety. You could golf here all the time and never get tired, I don't think.
I've been fortunate enough to visit the area and have a lot of friends in the area, and I can certainly say that the golf in Phoenix is awesome. So I haven't had the chance to play Greyhawk yet, but that's on my to-do list. It's on my bucket list to play. Let's talk a little bit about the NCAA's now. I believe it was Wake Forest ladies won the women's national championship, and the men were playing. I'm not exactly sure who won from the men's side. I don't know if that was decided today or not. But I mean, you got to have some of the NCAA players probably carrying some of the Daphne's head covers in their bags, right?
We do. And this year I wasn't able to get out and just cheer them on, but it's always so nice when we go out and see them, especially if we don't know. And many of the times we don't know, John. So, go out
Mm.
and congratulate them and cheer them on. And if we have a chance to introduce ourselves, we do. But mainly for the kids playing at this level, I'm such a fan. I'm looking at how well they play and what they do, and knowing that, there's different people out watching them, and that this could change their future. And so I really go as a cheering fan, and I'm cheering for every single one of them. So it's it's a lot of fun.
I was actually trolling on social media this week, and I saw I believe it was a post by Golf Digest magazine, and it was like talking about Tiger Woods. Now, for anybody who doesn't know, the Tiger head cover that Tiger Woods uses comes from you. That's from Daphne's head covers. That's the original
That's
Tiger
correct.
head cover. And I
Yeah.
was, Yeah, and I was looking at a post, and it was like, okay, everybody knows anything about golf. Even if you don't know about golf, you know who Tiger Woods is. And
Okay.
I was looking. There it is. There
There
he
he
is.
is.
There
Yeah.
he is, right
Right.
there.
Yeah.
Anybody who knows anything about golf, they know Tiger Woods. And I saw this post by Golf Digest magazine, and it said that now I love to golf, and I'm like a 2 handicap golfer, so I'm fairly decent. I can hit the ball pretty decent. But I read that Tiger, when he was in his prime, that he would have been like a +9 handicap golfer. And if you factor in like the tour players on PGA Tour, they're playing like the hardest conditions in the world, right? He'd be like, if you factored in tour conditions, he'd be like a +11 golfer. Somebody said like John Rahm right now is like a +9 handicap. I mean, that's just crazy.
It's really
Crazy.
crazy. I read that. I had to reread it to just try to understand it
I,
because
I
it's
can't
just
even
amazing.
I can't even wrap my head around about like what a +9, +10, 11. I mean, tour caliber. I mean, that's just like wow. I mean, what does that even mean? You know, I mean,
That's a valid question, John.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Oh
just
my
the
gosh.
excellence on top of excellence.
So let's talk about Tiger. How did you get Tiger to have the club head cover on his driver? How did that happen?
Well, there's been some nice stories about me being brilliant about marketing, but the truth is, really, it was luck, John. Ms. Woods, Tiger's mom, bought the first Tiger from Big Canyon Country Club in Newport Beach, where they belonged,
Hmm.
for him I think when he was, 13 or younger. And he just always carried it. And the teaching pros and things all knew him, and they also had a good relationship with Daphne, so they made sure they had them. And it really didn't come to my attention until a few years before he won the Masters. And people say, "Hey, there's this guy out there who's really winning, and he's carrying your Tiger." And I was like, "Well, that's cool. That's really cool." But we'd heard a lot of different stories, and they kind of came and went. But the one of my favorite tiger stories was, we were growing fairly rapidly, and I was hiring people, basically, young, building my business, not knowing what to do. So basically, my qualification was if somebody worked hard and had a pulse, I hired them. It
Hmm.
wasn't necessarily for experience or polish. And this very hardworking woman working for me, um, and I heard her on the phone talking to somebody and going, "Well, I don't care if her name is Mrs. Woods. We don't have any tigers, and she can't have any." I was like,
Wait.
"Oh my God, no, no!" And this was before we were even this was one of our smallest buildings. So I went running, saying, "No, no, no!" And the phone was still on the wall. And I grabbed the cord and I pulled it out of her hand. So the phone fell on the ground, bonk, bonk, bonk across the floor. And I picked it up. "Hello, hello, hello. Um, oh, yes, Miss Woods is there. We have tigers. We didn't have any, but I would make one." And I
Right.
was like, "Oh my God, no, don't tell her no." So from that point on, I
Oh.
got 6 tigers and I put them in the back of my office drawer. And
Hmm.
I kept them so that no matter what, I'd have them for her. And now I still have 6 locked in my office closet as an insurance policy. So there's no option to ever say that ever again. But that talk about something that conversation that gave me the heebie-jeebies and nightmares for a long time.
Oh my God. Well, they say good help is hard to find. So,
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
but now that had to have been like, the 90s, and when Tiger was, getting onto the scene and pretty
Mhm.
much, reinvented golf. And I would say that,
Yeah.
golf as we know it today, and we can get to that, but like golf as we know it today, and the prize money that players can appreciate today basically changed because of what Tiger brought to the game. Would you agree?
Yeah.
I mean, the level of play that he brought, the level of excitement to the fans, and reinvigorated the game, I guess, if so to speak. Um,
Mhm.
just that quality. I mean, everything we see in the golf industry, from clubs and apparel and club head covers and equipment, and his quality of play. I mean, it elevated everybody. I mean, we look at like John Rahm and Brooks Koepka and Justin Thomas and Jordan Spieth. I mean, all the best players in the game today. I think everyone saw what Tiger was doing, right? I mean, his work ethic, his athletic ability, his workouts, and everything that he did. I mean, you see what the template that Tiger brought basically changed how everybody plays today. And now you see all the college kids. I mean, we're talking NCAA stuff. All of the college kids, young men and women, I mean, they're aspiring to be, the next tour star,
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I think it's fantastic that you were able to capitalize on, arguably the greatest player who has ever played, there's your cat, the greatest player who has ever played the game. I think from a statistical and just a dominating statistical standpoint, and he's carrying your club head cover, the Daphne's Headcovers Tiger, on his bag, and he's done it for years.
Yeah, for his entire career. And it's just been so wonderful to just watch his whole journey and progression. I'm grateful to him for, of course, what it did for Daphne's Headcovers, but also what it did for the game of golf. And there's so many good things. And then that's not even to mention how he quietly has just remained philanthropic and so generous through, the Tiger Woods Foundation the entire time. But yeah, watching things, I mean, watching the Masters or any of the champion events, when your design is on somebody's bag and that somebody happens to be Tiger Woods and the world's best golfer, my whole family had a protocol. My kids knew, when it was Sunday and Tiger was winning, we were all there watching, and, it was all positive and cheering. And if you had anybody who was explaining how a player should hit it or something, they were quickly invited out of our living room. And, we've, and then over the years, as I've worked with Nike and they've licensed from me and had Tiger gear, of course, we wear all our Tiger gear and cheer madly. And, I've cried at every one of his Masters wins.
Oh, God.
So it's all been really, really exciting and fun just to watch it all and cheer him on. And, and now his son Charlie's carrying our Tiger too. We said, what do you want to carry, Charlie? He goes, well, I want to carry a Tiger like my dad.
Is he really? Wow.
Yeah. And what's cool is on the back of his, Ms. Woods embroiders, on the back of Tiger's, it says in Thai, love from mom, because she couldn't always travel with him. So that way she's always there with him, which I think as a mom is really beautiful. So on Charlie's, it says love from grandma.
Wow. Now,
isn't that cool?
That is something that I don't think very many people at all in the whole world know.
No.
That's a little known fact that Mrs. Woods embroiders in Thai messages to her son and her grandson on the back of the head covers.
So it's always a love from mom on Tigers. And that's what it said consistently. So when she'd call me, and it's just great. I mean, once, I'm a big hiker, and, like one day I was hiking and going in to get some supplies after a hike, and the, phone pops up, Tita Woods, so you pick it up. I think it was in the parking lot of a Bash's in Sedona. I was like, hi, how are you? We have a lovely chat, warm, nice woman. And she's like, okay, I need some more Tigers. This is what I need. And, I said, well, can I send them to you not lined so you can embroider them and then I'll line them so they fit just fine? Oh, no, I don't have time. Don't worry about that. Just send them to me, so those are fun phone calls to get at random times. And, of course, to address rapidly and make sure she's got what she needs.
Wow. I mean, that's just, this is amazing. So, I mean, everybody wants to have insight, right, into the players. I mean, I don't know if you got a chance to watch the Netflix series Full Swing,
but
I did. It was what I loved about it was kind of the behind the scenes view that you got to see of what it's like
Yeah.
for a PGA Tour player, because a lot of us don't know. I mean, the golf industry, anybody who's a fan of golf and anybody who's worked in the golf industry, everybody knows like how small of a family it really is. I mean, it's like
Yeah.
the smallest, probably the smallest of any of the professional sports by far. And
Yeah.
it's such a small industry, and everybody knows everybody. It's just remarkable. You know what we're able to do, and um, you know how fantastic some of these opportunities, and when they come for some players, I mean, you have to make the most of those opportunities. You know, and
Yeah.
you know we've seen good players come and go, and speaking of good players, with that good fortune that happened from having the Woods family carrying your club Headcovers. I mean, that had to be great publicity, and it probably gave you a lot of recognition for what your Headcovers are doing. What other players, tour players, recognizable names have carried your Headcovers?
Oh, thank you for asking. There have been a lot over the years, and my team always gets upset with me when I don't remember all of them. And it's never not out of a great love for all of them, but it changes. Our very first was Craig Stadler. And he came and said, "Hey, my mom's making my walrus, and she's really tired of it. And would you make a different one?" And so we designed and worked on it together with him, and he couldn't have been nicer. Um, and the late Payne Stewart carried our koala in honor of his wife, who was Australian. And currently we've got, Patrick Cantlay and Dustin Johnson carries our black lab on and off. The
Rory.
Lydia carries well, Rory's carries ours on and off. So it's interesting. I think they have a family friend that makes the Saint Bernard.
Mhm.
Now, when he does photo shoots for Nike, it's Daphne's because it photographs very well. But I think that they have some type of relationship or friendship where it's the other one. But we're honored that we're the one that looks good in photos, and um, so it's just it grows all the time. And my favorite thing, John, is when I'm watching golf and there's somebody else that we don't know about. So currently we have over 200 touring pros on the LPGA, PGA, and the Champions Tour carrying Daphne's, John Daly, you know, and so it's really cool to see.
I would love to have John Daly on this show.
He is so nice. He's
Isn't he? Yeah.
he's just got this southern charm.
Mm-hmm.
And he's another one who calls out of the blue. In fact, he last week I'm driving along and phone rings and it's him and I'm in the car. We're on the way to the theater, and he said, "I'm here with." I said, "Oh, hi, John." And he said, "Actually, it's not John. It was his friend who owns a club." And he said, "I'm actually on John's phone and I'm golfing with John, and he's mad at me because I don't have any of his lions in my golf shop. So he said I had to call you." I said, "Okay, wonderful." So we had a nice chat, and send me your information, and we'll get some out to you. And then John hops on the phone, just as nice as could be, in the Southern charm. "How are you doing, darling?" And nice repartee back and forth, and he's just a pleasure to talk to and a pleasure to work with, and I love making his lions for him.
I met John at the Masters in 2015, and got the first time I ever got to get down to Augusta, and some buddies, and we were like, "Oh, you got to get down to the Hooters. John Daly's outside Hooters," and he sets up outside Hooters every year, and he's got his stuff, and he signed a Masters flag for me, and we got pictures, and we hung out, and I mean, the dude not only can he golf, but he's like big time into music too, and he like
Yeah.
plays, and he's like actually a good musician. That's crazy.
Yeah, he's a talented human being. There's a lot of different things that he can do and do well. He seems to have some extreme gifts, and obviously, of course, he's worked very, very hard.
Now, I remember when when I started golfing as a youngster. old enough that I was still playing like persimmon woods kind
Hmm.
of clubs. I mean, like metal woods were out and stuff, but there was this transition was happening to, you know, the tour pros where they didn't play like the metal woods like right away. A lot of them were still playing the quality of the persimmon woods was still that high that they were still playing those. And then the metal woods came, and I remember the club that John Daly was hitting. It was the I think it was like a Wilson killer whale, and
Hmm.
it was like a oversized at the time. What we thought of was like oversized was like this bigger club, because I mean persimmon woods were like this big, and then this
Right.
killer whale came out, was like that driver was like bigger, and if we look at it now, it was probably like the size of a 3 wood or something today. But at the
Yeah.
time, that thing was massive, and it was like that's what John Daly was. So I mean, of course, everybody wanted to go out and buy that club and wanted
Sure.
to be, you know, and I, you know, he really kind of was really known for his distance, for how far he hit the ball, and he would just like dominate courses. And I think because he did that before Tiger, you know, and everybody started
Mhm.
Tiger proofing courses and making courses longer, you know, for Tiger. John Daly was the first one who really kind of brought that pizzazz to the tour of like mega distance, you know,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. I mean,
he did
he can
that.
certainly hit it. And we also, when he did that, Wilson came to us and we made the killer whale covers for them. So, it's kind of funny in the head cover world when something happens
You
and
did
it's
that.
named something like that, you come to Daphne's and, we try to create something for you. But yeah, I mean, the way he hit do you remember them talking about the distancing in the groups ahead because he hit so far, he would hit into them when nobody else had, so it wasn't an issue?
Right, right. I I just knew that John Daly would like dominate courses. I mean, he would hit so far, and
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
even comparatively like to now. I mean, the technology is so great, and the ball travels so far that, you know, they're trying to get the ball manufacturers to create different balls that don't fly as far. I
Yeah.
don't know if that's going to fly or not. I don't know about that. I mean, but what he was doing, I mean, I played at some of the courses that I know John played at, and they were like, yeah, John Daly like flew that tree at like 330 yards out, and I'm like, that's crazy, ridiculous. I mean, super talented guy. Uh, um, you know, down to earth. I'd love to have him on the show. I mean, if I can get John Daly on the show, that'd be awesome. I mean,
Oh, you would have so much fun. He's a great conversationalist, has beautiful energy, and of course, probably more stories than you and I combined
I
ever.
I love the meme of him where he it was a video reel, and he's like it's on the golf cart, and he's like, where's the first tee and what's the course record? And he's like
Yeah, yeah.
puffing on smoke.
Cigarette. Yeah.
I think that's why everybody maybe relates to him, is because he's like not your prototypical, you know, stuffy tour player. He's, you know,
Hmm.
he's got a belly, he smokes, he drinks, and it's like, who can't relate to that? I mean, that's our
Yeah.
everyday weekend golfer. I mean, that's, you know, that's who we have, and that's I think why people idolize him. He's an awesome guy.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
Now, talking about some of the other head covers that you've done, um, I, I I have to say that uh, you and I got to work together a few years back. I was doing some things with the Veteran Golfers Association. I myself am a Marine Corps veteran, and I believe I reached out and kind of just pitched an idea like, hey, you know, would like to, you know, would you be interested in doing a collaboration on a club head cover recognizing our veterans? And
Hmm.
we got to talking, and one thing just it just clicked, and I think for me it was just kind of a shot in the dark, and I was just like, hey, I love Daphne's head covers. I mean, Tiger Woods. I mean, all the club head covers that you have, which are awesome. And I was like, I wonder if they would love to do, you know, a club head cover for veterans. And we were able to connect, and that led to the military bear.
I've got
And
it.
you do have it.
I do have it. Yeah. I was. because since this was our collaboration, I had to bring it so we could.
There he is. There is the military bear. And I
And do you
still,
remember the detail of the hat? Like we had
oh my God.
how many hats I made because we wanted to represent all branches of the military, and I had
Right.
no idea
Right.
how like what this khaki or that khaki meant or what that hat we had. And you were great because you're like, no, let me explain these different things. I think I made 10 hats and 5 different khakis before we settled on what was right that represented everybody.
I think I remember like sending you like an email with a picture of like a print that was like, no, this is the right camouflage,
Yeah.
pattern that we need to have on, because I wanted to make sure that, you know, any branch of service, anybody who is a veteran, young or old, they were going to be able to relate. And I think that what was in the back of my mind was we have to get this right. Like, I appreciate that we went back and forth so many times on that print, but I wanted to make sure that we got something that was accurate, that every veteran out there can say, "Oh yeah, that's spot on." I mean, it's relatable to any branch of service, and I think that's why we went so far on that, to make sure that we got it right. And you couldn't have nailed it any more perfectly than you had.
Well, thank you. Thank you. And I remember we'd have conversations and I go to production and go to my team and go, no, it's this khaki. You got to find it. And no, this has to change on the hat. And so we'd
Right.
be back there changing. But what was really nice is sometimes when we design, people go, well, I kind of want this. And we can't, even though Daphne's Headcovers has been, we just celebrated our 45th year in business. We're not mind readers. And you were so good with, okay, here's an example. This is why. Let's get this. So it was a really, really good, vibrant collaboration, which really, I think, led to the success of the design.
I'm still floored every time I walk into a PGA Superstore or a Golf Galaxy and I go over by the Daphne's Headcovers and I'm like, hey, there's the military bear. And
Yeah.
I'll tell people like, hey, I helped with this design, and I was a
Yeah, you
military
did.
consultant for this design. And they're like, get out of here. Yeah, you're
You
kidding. And I'm like, no,
100%
I'm
did.
not.
Yeah.
And I go in and I see it, and it still just floors me every time I see it. So, I can't thank you enough for that, and for the support that you've provided for our men and women. It was just recently Memorial Day weekend, so we always think about our veterans, our men and women who have served, and those who have given the ultimate sacrifice. So a big shout out to you and to Daphne's for what you do, and that support. We'd greatly appreciate it
Well,
by all
thank
means.
you. Thank you. I mean, thank you for your service, John, and for the opportunity to do this and being able to recognize the men and women that serve for us. It's kind of an unusual thing for a head cover maker or a company to get to do, but it was important to all of us. And, so it was a wonderful project that was meaningful and still remains meaningful.
I was just golfing a couple of weeks ago, and a friend of mine pulls up and says, "Hey, can I join in?" And we're like, "Yeah, sure." And I was like, "Hey, I noticed your head cover. He had the military bear," and he's like, "Yeah, I just got this the other day." And I was like, "Dude, do you know where that came from?" And I told him the story, and he was like, "No way, are you serious?" And I was like, "Yeah, man." He couldn't believe it, and I was
That's
just like,
awesome.
"That's what it's all about, right there." I mean, like, just like you said, when you see a tour player, and I don't care if it's a tour player or if it's your buddy or just some random who you get paired up with, and you see one of your club head covers. I mean, that's just so proud. I mean, that makes you feel so
Yeah.
good to see that.
Yeah, so you get it too. So I love that.
Yeah, yeah.
I have to, when my kids were younger, they would say, you cannot speak to everybody that has one of our head covers, Mom. It's so embarrassing because I would be out and see somebody. And I just want to thank them, and, the kids in middle school, be like, this is so embarrassing. You've got to stop. But it just meant so much to me that anybody carried Daphne's and continued to. I just wanted to go and thank everybody. And oh no. So my kids are considerably taller than me. So as they got taller, it just bit by bit, I noticed them kind of manhandling me and steering me the other direction. So I didn't embarrass them again as I rushed up to thank somebody.
How old are your kids now?
Um, my son is 28, my daughter's 22.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
So they've been through the whole journey. You know, my son slept on the factory floor because I was so busy. After Tiger won the Masters the first time, I didn't have time to go home, and I wanted him with me. So he grew up. Our conference room was his playroom, and I brought him like a Fred Flintstone car, and he would go in circles around the factory in there. And he slept. I used the fur that we use on the beaver head covers for their ears, and I got a bunch of it and stacked it in the corner of my office, and that's where he slept. So yeah,
Those were his
they've been
pillows.
ingrained. Yeah.
I mean, I think for anybody out there who owns any kind of business, if you're trying to make it, that's what it takes. It takes that
Yeah.
kind of dedication, and you have to put everything into it, right?
Oh, 100%. You can't, I liken it, as you know, I'm a big hiker. I liken it to hiking. It's, some days you get up and you just run up and down the mountain and it's great. And other days it's just hard to get out of bed. And then a lot of days it's kind of a trudge in between. But if you're going to be successful at business, you've got to get up and do it every single damn day, no matter what, whether you're celebrating it and it's wonderful or it's not. It's just the tenacity of, looking at your goal, knowing you're getting to the top of the mountain, to use that analogy, no matter what, rain or anything, and coming back down and just continuing doing it. And, I've missed the time when we got out of college and everybody was getting married and things. I missed almost all the weddings because I was working weekends and missed so many other things because it was what I needed to do to build the company.
So I gotta ask, you said you're celebrating your 45th year
Yeah.
in business. Let's go back a little bit. What made you decide to start making head covers? I mean, was it just you had a dream one day, or you thought, well, I'm just going to make a head cover? I mean, how did this happen?
It's a fun story. It's when I was 10, I asked my mom, Daphne, our company's namesake, for a sailboat. My mom was from England. We're not a nautical family, even though we were living in the desert. And she said, think of a business, Jane, earn it yourself. So I said, well, I'll make stuffed toys for Christmas. So she taught me how, and we bought some fur and we designed them. They weren't from patterns, and most of them weren't. Most of them were our designs, very simple. And I would cut and sew them, and then I'd fill up a garbage bag, throw it over my shoulder, and walk up and down the street and knock on the neighbors' doors and sell them. And I just would go from block to block to block. And I finally, as a 10-year-old, bought a little 16-foot sailboat. It was beautiful. And it was just so thrilled. I discovered I liked making my own money. Um, so then the puppets the toys, morphed into hand puppets.
Mm-hmm.
And my mom and I would go to arts and crafts shows on the weekend and I'd sell them there. And soon I was selling so many and I still didn't drive, John. So I'd go into the sailboat and I'd take out the mainsail and the boom and I'd pack it with all the puppets. And then she'd take me to the art show and just leave my sailboat in the back of my space. And I used that for inventory. And then I'd set up a little table and I'd sell. And that way I could carry enough stock. Um, and I learned a lot selling on the streets. And then one day somebody suggested that we make golf club covers. So my mom and I talked about it and we thought at first it was a silly idea. And then my mom bribed me and she said, you're going to be 16 soon. If you make and sell enough of these, I'll buy you a car. Well, I was in. I wanted a car more than
Yeah.
anything.
Right.
So we went to the Goodwill because I thought, well, golf is fancier than street fairs selling the puppets. And I bought a patent leather hat box. And I made enough head covers to fit into the box, just like how a fisherman only takes the fish that fit in their frying pan. I
Okay.
was like, I only need as many samples as fit into this box that I bought from Goodwill.
Right.
And then I went to the Arizona Biltmore here, long time Frank Lloyd Resort and I think it's the second golf course in Phoenix. And I talked my way into the pro shop. And I went in and there was photos on the wall. And the highest photo said Pete, the director of golf. So I figured he was the guy. So I just said, hi, I'm here to see Pete. And they showed me back to his office, probably thought I was somebody's kid, and walked in and I gave him my sales pitch.
When
And
was this? What year
this
was
was
this?
in 79.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So there were no animal head covers. There certainly weren't any 16-year-old female sales reps. And I gave him my sales pitch, and he listened. He's a beautiful man. He's still a friend of mine.
Hmm.
And he said, well, I'm going to tell you three things. One, I'll buy your head covers. Two, that's the worst sales pitch I've ever heard in my life. And three, I'm going to give you some pointers on how to sell it, and I'm going to send you to some of my friends. And that was my very first sale. And Daphne's is still at the Arizona Biltmore. They hold a very special place in my heart. And then I kept on selling until I earned the car that my mom had bribed me for. And I bought a 1973 bright red Volkswagen Bug, which I thought was the most beautiful car on the planet.
Right.
And that was the start of Daphne's Head Covers.
Oh my gosh. So you started your business basically with a Goodwill box, and you got your start at the Biltmore. I played at that course. One time I came down, I got to play in a charity outing there, which was like that's a fantastic course.
It
So
is.
you got your start, and you started selling head covers. So like, what were you making? Like, were you making different kind of animals, or were you making like caricatures, or what were you making?
Yeah, I turned some of my puppets into head covers. So I turned a koala into a head cover. And then we didn't golf. So, but I read up a lot. We're a family of voracious readers. So I was reading up about golf. And I learned that a birdie and an eagle and a bogey were golf things. And I
Hmm.
knew a bogey was bad. So I made a birdie, an eagle, and then I made a bogey, and it had like rickrack teeth and tentacles and kind of googly eyes, and was my version of what was bad.
Right.
So that was part of it. So I would go and sell those. And, the second customer that I went to said he wasn't going to buy from me. And Pete had sent me on to him. He was a brilliant marketer, but really rough. And he said, well, I'm not going to buy from you because you don't have an appointment. You don't have a business card. You walked into my office. You don't have a catalog, and you don't have the head cover I want. And I remember being so scared of this guy, John. And I don't know where it came from, but I said, well, what head cover do you want? He said, well, I want a camel. I said, well, fine. If you order 12, I can make it. Well, I had no idea. And I was much shyer then, so I don't even know where that came from. But he said, okay, I'll order 12. And then he proceeded to chew me out all the way to my car about how unprofessional I was. And when he left, I, was in tears. But I went home and said, Mom, we have to design a camel. She said, why didn't you sell him what you have? I was like, what? I don't really know. It just, he said he wanted this.
Right.
So over the years, I've just listened to customers and designed along the way. And some things we can get, and some things we can't. But it's the designs just evolved as people asked for things, and then it was just a matter of because we were my mom and I cutting, sewing, designing, delivering, selling everything. So I was so busy all the time, just keeping the whole ball rolling.
Right. So, I mean, you've had to be like innovative in this industry, and you've had to keep up with demand. And I mean, that's so fascinating to hear about, how you got your start, and you develop products, listening to customers and listening to these hardcore golf professionals and golf managers that were chewing you out. I mean, I guess if anybody wants to say like the school of hard knocks or trial by fire, I mean, you went through it, because
I
that's
did.
the toughest of the tough
Yeah.
to learn, the golf industry, especially since you weren't a golfer and didn't know a whole lot about golf.
Mhm.
That's incredible that you were able to like get through that, and you learned quickly how to be successful in this industry, which is an amazing feat, because we've seen a lot of things, flash in the pan things, especially in the
Yeah.
golf industry, come and go. And I think one of
Right.
the staples and the stalwarts of the golf industry has always been, Daphne's head covers, and
Yeah.
you see them everywhere, and you have literally hundreds, if not maybe thousands of designs that you've done over the years. What are some of the latest, and talking about being innovative and creative and staying to up to speed with this industry? What are you doing now? Like, what are some of your latest designs and things that you've been creative with to keep up in the times?
Well, we're always listening, and my front office staff. Well, it's just so nice building a company because I get to pick and choose who I work with, and my front office staff is amazing, and they're very good listeners, as my regional account managers are. So we ask and listen all the time. So we're watching this new demographic of golfers coming in. We refer to them fondly as young bucks. They're the very fit 20, 30, 40-year-old males that they're very well dressed. They're arriving in Peter Millar and G4, and they're matched and they've got style and they're muscular. They've got a physique like Tiger, and they hit the ball far, and their language is different. They're all betting all the time, and the trash talk is amazing amongst them, and they're playing. So we've been really focusing on what they need and interviewing them really. So we came out with a bomb, and it says boom on it for the driver, and all the talk of the big driver. We have a money bag that came in and is sold out everywhere, and we had some fun with it and printed some fabric money that comes out of the top of it, and our tiger is in the center of it. So where the president would be, it's our tiger. And that came in. We introduced that at the PGA show and instantly sold out. And we've got lines of orders for it. So those were two where we're just really listening to see who's out there. I always try to do something for Arizona, since we're here. And so we did a rattlesnake this year that's very, very cool. Yeah.
That's very cool. I like that.
Yeah, so there's just so many different, and I'm just looking through our catalog right now because we were really prolific this year, and I can't remember all of them. We've got a goldfish that the detail on it is amazing, and our doodle, because so many people have doodles.
Hmm.
That's just great. And let's see what else is new on here. We've got a unicorn, and the proceeds of the sales support Girls Golf of Phoenix. Daphne's is our core value is we must do good while we're doing well, and we're really big in supporting the game that built us. So we do a lot with the first tee of Phoenix and girls golf. So we have some head cover that benefits girls golf. We've got a toucan with blue feet and a bright beak, a blue jay that's just stellar, no pun intended, a Bloody Mary. So, because you were seeing a lot of kind of the brunch crowd play and have cocktails.
Right. Yeah.
So that was fun trying to figure out how to sew a lime and a shrimp to have them sticking out of it. So, we're constantly innovating.
Yeah. So you're just like staying like up to date on and just listening to your customer base. I mean, if you could give any advice to somebody who's running a business now, I mean, because this is tough, because I will say this about this younger generation that's out there right now. They're tough because they're different than, our parents' generation, our generation, our kids' generation. They're different. It's not the same as when we went through school, and we were, learning off a blackboard and we were learning all this stuff. And it's like kids today, have computers and smartphones. And I mean, it's just that they didn't go through that transition that our generation or our parents' generation did. It was just the air that they breathe, and I think a lot of that has to do with, like Google and YouTube and stuff like that. I mean, I remember when I was growing up and golfing, I was just talking about this. Like if I wanted to get like online lessons or video lessons of like golfing and stuff, I had to like buy a VHS tape,
Right.
like and pop it in the VHS player, and that's kind of how I learned a lot of stuff, because I grew up poor. I couldn't afford a golf membership or lessons and all that kind of stuff, because golf was kind of always just up here. It was like an expensive,
Right.
A country club kind of thing, and it's like our kids today, they have instant information and it's like now everything has to happen now, and it's like if it doesn't happen now, well, they're already out the door, you know, and to be able to keep up with that crowd and to stay in touch with that, I mean that's a feat in and of itself right there. I mean, I got to give you props just on that, because I mean when you can capture that kind of crowd, and you know, and it probably helps having a 22-year-old, you know, kid, so they can give you, you know, I mean, how much do your kids help you with the business itself? I mean, that's gotta
Well,
be
you know,
something, right?
they've helped in different ways. One always being my North Star, so that when it was really tough or hard, I had a reason to get back up and do it again.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so it's that's constant. Uh, my son Jack is quite involved with the business now.
Mm-hmm.
He's currently getting two master's degrees, so he's very busy, but he's kind of watching and looking at our technology and different things and on the golf course and you know, paying attention to what's happening. And we actually have monthly scheduled calls that are solely dedicated to business, because very close to both my kids, we talk all the time. And this one is just, let's just talk about business. How's Daphne's technology? Am I aware of this? We could do this better. How do we change this? So, you know, keeping us really current. And, you know, I've done designs over the years, like my sloth, this is my golf bag back here. Yeah. You know, I was designing it and my daughter was like, yeah, no. What do you mean, no? It's a great sloth. She's like, you got to look at them on Instagram and look at different things. Sloths are more fun. It should have a smile. It should have these different things. So I listen to her and I change it. I bring it home, change it, bring it home, change it, bring it home. Well, it's been a bestseller since then, just listening. So, you know, I think that's probably one of my business skills is I've just listened and I ask a lot of questions. So it's, you know, I hear from all different ages and ask a lot of questions and then really absorb them. I'm constantly taking notes. You know, I'm known for my agenda is with me all the time so that I can capture ideas. And I was an art student in school, so still writing feels the best for me. But
Mm-hmm.
then I can write or I can sketch. So it's just constantly looking, asking, listening.
That's great advice. So any business owners out there listening, you heard it right here from Jane. So, I mean, I think it's a great story. It's a story of success. And I mean, I think anybody out there, and especially golfers, can relate to this because, you know, it's not all birdies and pars. I mean,
No.
there's times when we fall flat on our face too, and you dub a shot. I mean, we can all relate to that kind of experience. And as a business owner, I'm going to ask you this. I mean, answer. You don't have to answer if you don't want to, but I'm sure it probably wasn't every club head cover you sold, you know, sold off the shelves. I mean, there had to have been some that were just like, you give us. I mean, is there any stories that you have of maybe something that you thought was like, oh, for sure, people are going to love this, and it just flopped completely? Did you have
Oh,
any of
sure.
those?
And you know what? It still happens. It
Yeah.
still happens. Like when we first designed a unicorn, I thought it was going to be the best thing ever. It was a white unicorn with a kind of a sparkly mane and it just flopped. Just absolutely flopped. And then I was talking to some of the little girls from Girls Golf and I said, "Well, do you like this?" Because she had unicorns all over her golf bag. She's like, "It's boring." And I said, "Well, what do you mean it's boring?" She's like, silly unicorns aren't white. They're purple and their manes are rainbow. And she's just laughing like this delightful little girl on the golf course. And she's like, you know, like, can't you see that? So I went back and I made a unicorn that is lavender with a rainbow mane. We can't keep it in stock.
I've seen
You
that
know,
one.
and
Yeah.
yeah, and this
Yeah.
was, I think she was 8 or 9. You know, and I remember when she was like, "Oh, silly, that's," and her mom like, because I think I'd sponsored the tournament,
Hmm.
you know, and she's like, Don't colors, that's silly." And I was like, "No, this is, please don't interrupt. I need to listen to your daughter." Um, we've had some things that were successful that were slightly embarrassing. Like one year, I designed a grizzly, and this was before the military bear, and a hippo. And the hippo wasn't quite right. Its nostrils were stuck out, and I couldn't fix it. But the PGA show came, it was a deadline. I was setting it up, and Golf Channel came by, and they said, so I thought that they said, what are your new head covers? And what they said are, what are the best sellers that every shop should buy? And, everybody's setting up, there's tape guns going on, there was chaos. So I said, well, these. And so I highlighted the grizzly and the not very good hippo. But the way they played it was the two best selling items at the golf show are these two things. So all of a sudden I'm selling this horrendous hippo, just been like, oh my God, I don't know why it's selling. I'd done my own commercial, not paying attention. So I'm madly redesigning it all the time as we send it out to let people know, it's like, oh, I've got to be so careful about, what I say or do. And so over the years it evolved and it got much better. But that first batch, and then they kept on selling. It was like, I'm so mortified. So there's so many things, and we do lots of custom work. So, we're working on, all kinds of crazy things right now, because we've done an outhouse for a tournament. The things that people come up with are just nuts. And a dog with a royal crown on it and royal purple robes. And, so we have a whole custom line. We do the Nathan's the Vienna beef dog every year is a Chicago dog, complete with celery salt, for the owner of Vienna beef.
Love Chicago.
Yeah, so it's a constant creative process. I'm just looking here. We've done bass fish and a pink buffalo, Chiquita banana. So there's all that creativity is going on at Daphne's Headcovers all the time, in addition to whatever our current line is.
So, how does somebody go about doing an order? I mean, can they go right to your website, or if they want to do you do custom orders too? So
we do custom orders for a quantity. So you've got to be Daphne's Headcovers manufacturers out of 3 different factories here in Phoenix, one in China and one in Indonesia. So depending on your needs, our Phoenix team designs them, and then we go from there. If you just want to buy a head cover for you, if you go to our website, daphnesheadcovers.com, you can see, I think this year we have 108 different designs. And then you can have it embroidered. So, you could do a Father's Day present, or, have your name on it, or I have some teachers that will have, some of the golf pros, they'll have, slow or breathe or focus, or, you'll get it as your spirit animal and put something on there as a reminder. So there's a lot of things you can do that way.
Wow, that's interesting. So if you would like to get yourself and get your hands on a Daphne head cover, go to daphnesheadcovers.com. And if you'd like to get a custom order, have some quantity in mind, and you can talk to Jane and her design team, and you guys will make that happen.
Yeah, we'll certainly try. We'll have a discussion and see what we can do. So you just call the office and my team, and then we have a discussion and see if it makes sense, and if it's something that we can do. If we can, we're happy to. We could do your corporate design, or anything. The custom minimum is 90 pieces. Mm-hmm. So you got to be committed to what it is, and of course we've done ones that are much, much bigger. But 90 it can be attainable, if you have a cool tournament, or, it's your corporate logo or something. And those are fun for us to do.
One recommendation I would have is don't go back and forth on your color pattern like 12 different times though either.
Just my friend John gets to do that.
Oh my gosh. This has been a blast. I can't thank you enough for being on the show. It's always great to see you. I'm very pleased to hear from you and hear the success. I love tracking everything that Daphne's does. If you go out, follow you guys on social media. We'll post some links down in the comment section below. Go and check it out. We wish you the best, Jane, and I hope
Thank
to see
you.
you again. I'll definitely the next time I get down to the Phoenix area, I'll look out and get in touch. And
Oh,
it's
please
great to see
do.
you. Yeah,
It's great to
absolutely,
see you, and thank you for your long-term friendship. So it's been fun to be on here. A great way to end the day in sunny Phoenix. So let's of
absolutely.
course continue to stay in touch.
Yeah, it's like 90 degrees here in Wisconsin. It's like obscenely hot. I'm like, wow, I don't know what this weather is. I think you sent your weather up by our way, honestly.
I might have. If you don't like it, I'm sorry. If you like it, you're welcome. So,
Well, I mean, the thing about like Phoenix weather is it could be like 95, 100 degrees, but it's the dry heat. And,
yeah,
I mean, it's like, it's fine. You get that up here in this humidity up in Great Lakes territory up here. It's just obscenely just ridiculous. I mean, you don't even want to go outside. It's just so sticky and ugh, I mean the ball doesn't fly. I mean, you just don't want to play. We were playing league earlier and it was just like, I can't stand it. Like I'd
it's
glad to come
rough.
down by you.
Yeah, come down anytime. You're welcome. And we'll if our schedules collide, we can play golf too. It'll be a lot of fun.
Definitely, definitely. And we'll get some lunch and connect up. So it was great to see you. Thanks for coming on. Awesome to see you again and wish you the best of luck in a successful 2023.
Thank you very much. I wish you and your family just peace and happiness and prosperity. And thank you for your friendship.
Thank you, Jane. I appreciate it.